This time round, we look at the potential of crab farming here in the coastal region, from farm to fork. And this is what I mean, getting the crabs from their natural habitats right here in the mangrove forest, fattening the crabs in the cages, and finally having a dish of the same on the table. Crabs are a delicacy for subsistence consumption in fisher communities and tourist hotels in coastal Kenya, including being sold in restaurants as well as supermarkets across the country. And while more intensive research is still needed to fully capitalize on crab fishery development in the country, this sector has the potential of providing an alternative source of income for coastal communities in the country. Did you know that Kenya is the largest producer of seafood in East Africa? This is attributed to its expansive coastline that stretches to a length of 1,650 kilometers and the region's average annual rainfall of 1,500 millimeters. These two factors make it one of the best places for crab farming. The country has also been experiencing a surge in demand for seafood due to its growing middle-class population and their increasing preference for high-quality protein sources like crabs. If there was ever a breakthrough for mariculture in the coastal region, then this is it. With its huge economic potential, this is an agricultural subsector worth investing in. Kenya has been known for its beautiful beaches and tourist destinations, but the country is now getting recognition for its crab farming. And the process of venturing into this type of mariculture is not as complicated as it may seem. Coastal town Watamu is already making waves by not just consuming but growing seafood. Nearly 20 years ago, what started as a conservation effort along with fighting illegal fishing at Dabasso Creek in Watamu, a small coastal town in Kenya north of Mombasa, has now grown to a crab fattening project. A cool breeze from the Indian Ocean slaps our faces as Benjamin Karisa, a crab farmer here in Dabasso village in Watamu, takes us through how, together with his colleagues, set up their crab farming agribusiness.
Shughuli zetu haswa ni za uhifadhi wa mazingira haya ya baharini, ikiwa upanzi wa mikoko, kuelimisha jamii kuhusu uhifadhi na mbinu bora za utumiaji wa rasilimali hii ya Mide Creek, ikiwemo uvuvi na utumiaji wa mti ambao ni wa mkoko hata kwa kuni ama matumizi ya kinyumbani, iwe kimtindo bora ili kizazi kijacho pia kiweze kufaulu ama kiweze kufaidi maeneo haya. Lengo la tatu likawa ni usafishaji wa fuo za bahari hapa kwa creek na hata bahari kuu, ili kupatia wale viumbe wanaoishi katika mazingira haya ile athari ya pollution angalau ipungue. Hivyo basi, kwa kuwa conservation hailipi moja kwa moja, ili tuchukua muda, ikafikia mahali mifuko yetu ikawa haiwezi kukimu yale mahitaji haswa ya kinyumbani, huku tukiendelea na uhifadhi. Hivyo kupitia na mashirika ya kiserikali, kwa sababu kusema kweli msitu huu ambao tunafanya shughuli zetu unamilikiwa ama uko chini ya Kenya Wildlife Services na Kenya Forest Services. Wao ndio washikadau katika huu msitu. Sasa tukifanya shughuli za uhifadhi hapa, kupanda mikoko, ni lazima ama ilikuwa sharti tushirikishe katika haya mashirika na mengineo ambayo ni ya kijamii ama ma NGOs ambao iko maeneo haya ya Watamu. Hivyo tulipojaribu kuuliza ushauri kama tungefanya lipi la badala ili tuweze tujikimu kimaisha, tukaulizwa sisi kama tungeweza kufanya nini bora iambatane na uhifadhi. Na sisi kwa sababu wengi wetu, baadhi yetu wakati huo walikuwa wanafanya kazi na mahoteli hii ya utalii Watamu, wakawa tunashauriana na tukaona kama tungekuja na tukafanya ufugaji wa kaa, yani crab fattening, ingelikuwa bora kwa sababu soko tayari liko la hoteli, na tukiangalia barabara pia nazo tayari ziko. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa haina changamoto nyingi kukuza hizo crabs na kuuza, kuliko tukate miti ama tuendelee kuvua visamaki vidogo vidogo hapa, ili hali havina faida kubwa kuliko kukuza crab. Hatuna kabisa intention ya kuwa kutakuwa restaurant. Kwa hivyo the journey ama ile safari ya kufikia crab shack ilikuwa ya demand driven, kutokana na wageni ama kutokana na hali halisi. Kwa sababu kujenga boardwalk ilikuwa ni demand, kwa sababu crab fattening inataka hivyo, ndio hizi access ipatikane. Tulipoanza kuona watalii wengi wanaanza kuflock in ama kukuja wakati wa jioni, tukiwauliza ni sababu gani, wanasema hatufuati tu crab, lakini tunafuata pia lile jua. Jua likitua namna ile kule kwetu sisi hatujaliona tangu tuzaliwe wengine. Sasa hapa kwetu tunalifurahikia. Kwa hivyo tumekuja kununua kaa, same time tuna enjoy sandona. Wakatufungua mawazo zaidi, demand ikawa juu, mpaka tukasema tukiendelea hivi tunaanza kukosana na wateja, kwa sababu tunaulizwa crabs like 100 kg leo, kesho 100 kg, na sisi famu yetu ni ndogo. Afadhali tubadilishe hii mawazo, tuiweke hii kama eco restaurant, ambaye anataka kukula crab, instead tumupelekee kule, tumwambie tunauza crab hapa, aje akulie hapa, lakini tusiuze tena nje.
From a humble beginning, Dabasso Creek and Crab Shack restaurant has grown in leaps and bounds, and as the country looks to reap from the blue economy, there is a need to critically look at the profitability of crab farming along the coastline.
Iko na potential if well researched. Utafiti ukifanywa vizuri kwa kina, kuna uwezekano wa kuexpand hizi vitu hata kufikia soko ambalo litakuwa halisumbui, ama kufikia demand ambayo itakuwa hakuna tabu. Kwa sababu crab mwanamke vile anakaa, tumefundishwa na namjua, na hizo mayai zenye huwa amebeba, lakini akishabeba yale mayai mpaka akienda akiachilia at those conditions huko, kitambo zirudi mpaka zifike tena kwa manguruvu mpaka akue crab mkubwa, mostly huwa zimepotea ama zimeliwa ama zimekufa. Kwa sababu crab akiwa mdogo analiwa na viumbe wengi sana, samaki, crab wakubwa, ndege, viumbe wengi sana. Kwa hivyo kitambo survive mpaka afikie 200 grams, amepitia mambo mengi sana. Naweza kusema kwa zao moja la crab wanaweza kusave si crab zaidi ya 10. So ninasema kama research imefanywa vizuri, ni kwamba zikihatch at least half ziweze kubaki, zinaweza kuwa a lot of stock of crabs within this mangrove forest.
This crab eatery is popular with tourists, and getting crabs from the cages is an experience of its kind. But from farm to fork, this type of fish requires intensive care in its preparation.
What we do after harvesting kutoka kwa cages zetu, huwa tunazileta hapa, huwa tayari tumeboil maji. Tunazisafisha, halafu tunaziweka kwa maji ya kichemka, ndio zikufe instantly. Na ni kwa sababu crab ukimpatia muda mrefu kufa, kuna toxins ambazo ana produce kwa mwili wake, ambazo zinaikula ile nyama ambayo iko pale ndani. Mpaka ukiweka kwa maji, ile nyama itavurugika yote na utapata nyama. So you are advised, ukitoa tu kwa bahari, unakuja unaweka kwa maji moto, ikichemka ndio ikufe instantly. Sasa ikikufa, crab ukiweka kwa maji huwa iko dark kama black, lakini ukichemsha ikipata maji moto ina turn pink kama hii ambayo iko hapa.
Time now to enjoy the crab. Distinctive taste, I must say. For many farmers along the coast, crab farming is surely the new wave of increasing their tide of income generated from selling these high-demand crabs to ready markets within Kenya and beyond. But that does not come without its fair share of challenges. Let's talk to our expert. Our expert in this episode is Tendai Mtana. Tendai has served as the County Executive Committee member at the County Government of Mombasa, Department of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives. This Blue Economy Department is responsible for the West Indian Ocean Bay Area hub and economy. We speak to him on matters mariculture, that is farming of marine organisms at the Kenya's coast.
Aquaculture is an innovation. Is an innovation within a coastal shoreline, because the bias when it comes to fisheries is to go out into the ocean. But because we are part of a cosmopolitan community, and the palates of also our visitors mean that some are looking for freshwater fish, some are looking for ocean fish. And so the palate or the plate that is serving those who have an appetite for fresh water is what is driving the aquaculture. And even now we're seeing, some of the dynamism that is created between the introduction of a hybrid of both freshwater and sea to provide. So we're finding this innovation primarily driven by that, but also the experiment that comes out of research and development. Mombasa and the coastal region is also endowed with the Kenya Marine Fisheries Institute, where a lot of fish research or research that is tied to the fisheries sector is being done. So the applicability of that research is also part of what is driving the aquaculture space. That said, the beauty is that it's an opportunity to combine both ocean and fresh and find the right target. Young people today with media is also exposing a lot of young people and also a lot of the more experienced farmers, I would say, or even businessmen. Let me not just restrict it to those who have been in the industry of fishing itself. Because aquaculture is a business, anyone who understands business and an opportunity would make the investment that is required to ensure that the aquaculture provides the opportunities that are available. So essentially it's business that also can be tied to food security. Now in this area, it doesn't necessarily require one to have been in the fisheries business in order to do it. They just need to be able to understand business. They need to be able to understand that investment has a return, and that there needs to be a return on investment. Now from a policy perspective, you then would have a dynamic there of what I would call perhaps a triple helix model. So you have government on one side, and on government we then need to be specific and recognize that there is the county government, there is the Kenya government of Kenya, which is the national government, and then you have development partners. Now those three have their own policy outcomes. And very often what is required is then a unity of purpose, which is why the policy framework at the county level is tied within an intergovernmental framework called the County Agricultural Sector Committee, CASCOM. And that allows for national government, development partners, civil society to sit with the county government, because CASCOM is chaired by the CEC in charge of agriculture across all 47 counties. So it allows for the executive authority of the county to be able to coordinate that unity of purpose. So that's at one point. Then you have policy that is tied to the private sector. Now, each individual private sector initiative, like the one that we are in here today, has its own policy. Yeah, it has its own framework, it has its own objective. And again, it needs to be tied within the CASCOM framework in order for us to be all on the same page. Then you have the third apex, which is research and development in what I was speaking about with regards to the ChemFrees or the Pwani universities of this world, which is academia trying to do research and development in an effort to find applicability, primarily in commerce. So the idea here is, are we able to, within Pwani University, within our vocational training centers, are we able to raise, and even our primary schools, it's exciting to see the 4K initiative finding its way back. So we are hoping that the 4K Club initiative will also now not just focus on agro-ecological zones, but will also now focus on marine ecological zones, and in this case, aquaculture, that can also be tied into that. It is evident, for example, when you speak to those who are in the fishing industry, that there's not enough capture. Now, I would say the investment opportunity is then in the vessel. Very often, we want to then presume maybe what we need to do is add fishermen or train more fishermen. But I actually think what we need to do is the investment opportunities in the vessel. Now, the vessel will allow you to determine how many nautical miles out of the ocean you can go to. Now, if you come onto the aquaculture side, the vessel that then, in a sense, creates the enabling environment for it is the tanks. So you then now need to determine what size of tanks. Maybe the opportunity is, do we start with an integration of 3 or 4 tanks? Do you use innovation to create those tanks? Do you use the natural coral space? Because the tendency could be to perhaps say, for example, what you want to do is to build a tank. But technically what you could do is, you're close to the ocean. If you actually just create a water pan from the coral that is actually naturally available. So again, land is an asset. And I think for me here, it's one of the things I keep saying to the community, as controversial as this statement is, what we need to do is stop selling land. What we need to do is ensure that we have the right kind of partnerships, so that if Mtana owns land that is suitable for aquaculture, but Mtana does not have the capital, which is the finance, to be able to invest in that, then what Wycliffe, who has the capital, will do is come to Mtana, and rather than buy the land, because Wycliffe obviously has the disposable income, what Wycliffe should then be doing is having a unity of purpose with Mtana and saying, you already have an asset, I have cash, which is another asset, and Maureen could probably have access to the market. So how does Maureen, Wycliffe and Mtana come together to demonstrate how aquaculture can be done? So I think the first opportunity for me is Kenya. And Kenya is a land that is made up of very many communities who have their own strengths, and they also have their own weaknesses. Wycliffe has the strength of capital, but he has the weakness of he doesn't have the land. But Mtana has the weakness of capital, but has the land, and Maureen has the strength of market. So if we actually work together, I think for me that's the first opportunity. We'll then unlock, for me, what would be the unity of purpose that comes with the parable that is described as, if you want to go far, walk alone. But if you want to go further, work together as a team. That's possible as well. So that for me would be the first one, unity of purpose. We have a God-given opportunity to shine a light so bright. In my thought process, I'm convinced that our young people have an opportunity with the right leadership lens to finally reflect what in Mombasa we call that Mombasa actually means business in everything that we do.
To cater for the high demand of crabs in the world, experts have argued that the best way to close the gap is through farming instead of wild fishing, which could threaten the species in the ocean. There are already too many fishermen in the mangroves trying to make a living, and this leads not only to a decrease in crab population, but also to the destruction of mangroves. To ensure sustainable management, regulation on the minimum size of the crabs to be caught is recommended. From the delightful village of Watamu, an eco-tourist's dream, my name remains Elijah Mwani.